starting at just $4.49. Get so much more.
This is the Gashouse Gang on 104.1 FM KMOX. Sponsored by Saliga Heating and Cooling, a Daikin comfort dealer. And by Anderson Hospital, a Newsweek World's Best Hospital. Now, the Gashouse Gang on KMOX.
Good afternoon, friends. It is the Gashouse Gang, 12 to 1 every weekday, right here in the middle of your lunch hour. We talk some sports. Nate Gatter is in today for Tom Ackerman. I'm Chris Rongey, and we welcome you in 314-436-7900 to join the show via text or phone call. If you want to leave us a voice message, we would certainly take that because we want to hear from you. All you have to do is get the Odyssey app and record a voice message and send it to us. It's super, super easy to do that. And we are also streaming live on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. You can search out Gashouse Gang or just go to KMOX Sports and, you're going to find us right there. So as we start the show today, we let you know that we're going to have John Rooney, the voice of the Cardinals, joining us at 12:30 today. In what is the, we are the first full week post trade deadline, Nate, and the Cardinals made their moves. And they have essentially told us what they think they are for the remainder of the season. And I guess it isn't a total surprise of what this team ended up being based on what the expectation of the 2025 Cardinals was going into the season. It was not supposed to be a playoff team. They just happened to get off to a good enough start that you began to think, well, maybe if everything continues on this path, they can wind up in the postseason. But very clearly in the month of July, the decision was sort of made for them that this just isn't going to happen this year. But it's a really strange place to be, knowing that you have about 2 full months of baseball left to go, and you're not really thinking about a playoff. You're thinking about which of these guys can we get a look at so that we can make decisions for 2026 and what this rebuild looks like moving forward.
I think you said it right when you said they didn't really have a choice by the time the deadline came around.
Decision was made for them.
It really was. And in that sense, one of the things that I like about this time of year is obviously players get frustrated, and understandably so, if they feel like they're given everything and the front office undercuts them a little bit, which certainly happened to the Cardinals in the sense that the major league roster was undercut for the remainder of this season. There's no question about that. But at the same time, I would think if they're honest with themselves, the players understand that a part of that was sort of on them, right? If the Cardinals had maintained, 9 games above 500 at one point and a couple of games back in the division, if they had maintained that pace they had going for a while in the middle part of the summer, and they had gotten themselves to, let's say, 12, 13, 14 games above 500 and been in first place or within a game or two of it and sitting in a playoff spot at the deadline, I think it becomes very, very difficult for the Cardinals to sell off in that scenario, especially because their most valuable piece, Ryan Helsley, has a qualifying offer attached to him, so they wouldn't be losing him completely for free at the end of the year. But the way it went, to me, it was sort of like the default position for the Cardinals had to be sell unless the team forced them not to, I guess, because of just where they are in this, whether you call it a rebuild or call it a reset or whatever it is. Where they are in this transitional period of time for the organization, the default had to be looking toward next year and beyond, unless this year's team forced them and put them in a position where they had to allow for a playoff run, and they just didn't do it. For a while, it looked like maybe they were going to, and they deserve credit for that, but they weren't able to maintain that long enough.
If they're a game and a half out at the deadline, maybe it's not this dramatic. Maybe it's not. And really, I would even say that the deadline was dramatic for them because the guys they traded, none of them were surprising.
Right. They really only traded the guys they had to trade at this deadline in order to get anything for them.
It wasn't like, oh, my God, I can't believe they did that. I mean, you expected the trade of Helsley and Maton made sense, and Steven Matz. Those all were kind of the guys that we assumed would go if there was going to be a trade deadline deal. Anybody else on top of that would have been difficult for them to pull off. So, for example, trading Arenado somewhere else to open up third base and let Nolan Gorman play all the time. That was going to be more of a I don't want to call it a pipe dream, but that was going to be a much longer shot. they weren't going to get that done. And I didn't think they would get it done. I'm sure they wanted to get something done so that they can do that. But what has really, I think, complicated the situation is, and we talked to Matt Pauley about this earlier, is having Lars Nootbaar back and, having Arenado when he does come back and is ready to play, because now you're talking about taking playing time away from guys who need as much as possible in the final 2 months of the season. Guys like Jordan Walker, guys like Gorman, those guys need to play, because your only goal here for the remainder of the season, and I asked Paulie this question, is there a value to letting Nootbaar play the rest of the year, seeing if you can raise his value a bit? Same thing with Arenado. See if you can raise his value so that you could potentially in the offseason make moves. Or is it better to spend the final 2 months of the season with Gorman and Walker in the lineup every single day and see what more you can get out of them? And I asked the question, it was more of a rhetorical to Matt, because I agree with his answer, and that is, you got to find out what these dudes are. And if that means it's at the expense of more veteran players, then so be it.
Yeah, I think it's a difficult question, because you can make the argument, in particular with Nootbaar, because I think there's real value there, especially if he played well down the stretch of the season. And he's the only guy outside of the three relievers who I think I would have anticipated being traded or would have thought was more likely than not to move, except for his injury situation.
Right.
If he'd been healthy this entire year, but in particular, if he had been healthy, if he had just come off the injured list maybe 2 or 3 weeks before the deadline rather than right after it, I think, and then played well, I think I would have felt like it was more likely than not he would be moved. But with that complicating factor, I can understand why John Mozeliak said, I'm not in a situation where I have to move him, and I don't really want to move him at something close to the lowest point of his value in several years, when I could hold on to him to the end of the season. But to your point, and this is assuming there was some kind of interest out there, which was reported that there was some interest. We don't know at what price point, but we can assume there was some interest. The counter to that would be, if they've decided they need to make the rest of the year all about the young guys, then at some point you kind of just take what you can get for Nootbaar and move on. Because if he's going to be sitting on the bench for a significant chunk of what's left of this season, what are the odds his value is higher in the offseason than it is now?
Probably not. If he's sitting most of the time for the next 2 months, his value, you're right, I don't think it would be lower. I just don't know if it's significantly better if he plays every day, because they now have about 5 years of data on him. So it's not like he is a brand new player. And I guess you would say this will be his 4th full season once it's over. And yeah, he's had some injury stuff, but this is the first 4 full years. I mean, he didn't play it all of 2021. He only played in 58 games then. But I would think if you're a front office of another team, you pretty much know what Nootbaar is.
And especially
I
because
think the Cardinals know what he is too. I suppose it's possible he goes somewhere else and then just explodes as a player, but I don't think so. I think this is about what Lars Nootbaar is, and I would venture to guess most other teams already know too.
And especially because the interest, what we've been hearing as the impetus for the interest in him, and the reason that the interest in him is what it is around the league, is partially because he's an analytics darling, that a lot of teams like the underlying profile. And that underlying profile is, the point of it is that it's not really going to change in these last 2 months. It is what it is. His production might go up, and that would presumably bolster his value a little bit. But the teams interested in him are not interested in him because of his batting average or because of how many home runs he's hit. They're interested in him because of the overall statistical and analytical profile.
Yeah.
And when you have 4 years of that, it's pretty much set as it is.
So, I mean, it would be at his expense, but I think you have to allow Walker and Gorman to play as much as possible. And I almost think they should both be playing every day, because this is all this season is from here on out, is getting as much information as possible on those two players, not just them, but I think they're at the top of the list. And I know you'll say, well, maybe not you, but people will say, well, Gorman's been around for a while. And are we starting to get to the point where we know what he is? I don't think so. I don't think he's got a lot of at-bats, but how many full seasons of everyday baseball has he played?
Right.
At the major league level?
Not a lot.
Right, and that makes a huge difference because sometimes players take a couple of years of playing every day before they turn into what they are. It doesn't happen within 2 years or even 3 sometimes. Sometimes it's 4 or 5. And, I don't know that you gain all the knowledge you need about him in the next 2 months, but you sure put yourself in a much better position for 2026.
The one thing I would say, and I imagine they are doing this. This is not a criticism because I assume it's happening. I hope, though, that Chaim Bloom is included in even those conversations, because to me, that's all about next year. So if the answer is Chaim Bloom says, I know Lars Newbar is getting traded this offseason. I got no interest in him on this roster next year because I want to clear things out. Okay, great. Then Lars Newbar should be on the bench for the remainder of the season, pretty much. Certainly not taking at bats away from anybody else. On the other hand, if he says, no, for all the reasons the other teams like him, I kind of like him. And I think there's, more there. And I see him as potentially an everyday guy next year. I mean, maybe that changes the calculation. In general, I hope that Chaim Bloom's outlook on the offseason is driving the bus, because he is going to have a very, very, very busy offseason. If he's going to clear out some of the redundancies and the clog in the Cardinals roster, and certainly those corner outfield spots are at the top of the list in terms of clog, he needs to be given this opportunity. I mean, that's what this year has been about. Mostly him evaluating the minor league system, but it's about the major league guys too, because there are so many of those fringe guys where you're saying, who exactly is he? Do we really know? How do we value him if we do get rid of him? And to me, at least 3, 4, 5 of these position players that we talk about a lot have to be off the roster by the start of next year in order to just make a roster that makes a little more sense. So we're not talking about 5 guys for 2 or 3 spots where it's just a complete toss-up.
A lot of heavy lifting's got to be done in the offseason. I want to hear from John Mozeliak, president of baseball operations, spoke to Tom Ackerman yesterday on Sports on a Sunday here on KMOX. And, he's talking about this past trade deadline and then, moving forward and what he's going to miss about the job and what he won't. We're going to hear some of that when we come back. Nate Gatter is in for Tom Ackerman today. I'm Chris Rongey. This is the Gashouse Gang, and we will be talking to John Rooney at 12:30 on the show today. It's the Gashouse Gang on KMOX.
Tom Ackerman for Busey Bank and Building Community. We are proud to recognize Doorways as a building community partner. Doorways helps those who are invisible and ignored by society, people navigating poverty, homelessness, and serious illnesses like HIV. While HIV has become treatable, the number of cases continues to rise in the disenfranchised community. Building community means nobody should be invisible. Learn more about Doorways at doorwayshousing.org.
This is Pat Buring, Executive Vice President of Busey Bank. I'm so proud to recognize Doorways, the only agency in the region dedicated to providing housing to individuals living with HIV and their family members. Doorways sees to it that clients receive on-site services to manage their lives, opening doorways to independence and opportunity. That's what building community is all about. Join Busey. Get involved as we continue building the communities we call home.
Actual price will depend on product and subscription plan. Featured products are compounded drug products, which the FDA does not approve or verify for safety, effectiveness, or quality. Prescription products require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if appropriate. See website for details, restrictions, and important safety information.
Want a boost in and out of the bedroom? Hims has you covered. Introducing a new 2-in-1 approach to level up your game. Tadalafil for better bedroom performance and zinc for testosterone support. Put it all together and you've got what you need to turn things all the way up. Getting started is simple. Just go to hims.com/joy to start your free online visit. Through Hims, you can access ED treatments including pills, chews, and more. 100% online. No office visits, no pharmacy lines. Just fill out a simple intake form and a licensed medical provider will determine if treatment's right for you. If prescribed, it ships free and discreetly to your door. Find affordable treatment options at up to 95% less than brand names at hims.com/joy. That's hims.com/joy, HIMS.com/JOY.
Paid non-attorney spokesperson. Paid for by Action Matters. Texting privacy policy and terms and conditions posted at textingterms.us. Texting enrolls you for recurring automated text marketing messages. Message and data rates may apply. Reply stop to opt out.
Attention parents of children who have used the gaming platform known as Roblox. If your child was a victim of sexual abuse or harm of any kind while using the Roblox platform, you may be entitled to compensation. Roblox is facing multiple multiple high-profile lawsuits, including an ongoing class action, alleging it failed to protect users from foreseeable dangers that led to the grooming, exploitation, and sexual abuse of minors on the platform. Claims allege Roblox turned a blind eye to predators, unsafe games, and deceptive monetization practices that targeted children. Victims were contacted through in-game chats and coerced into private conversations on third-party apps. If you believe your child may have been a victim of grooming, sexual abuse, or harm of any kind while using the Roblox platform, you may be entitled to a cash settlement. Text our helpline now to find out if you have a viable compensation claim against Roblox. Text GONE to 32 32 32. That's GONE to 32 32 32. GONE to 32 32 32.
Named one of Newsweek's world's best hospitals for 2025, Anderson Hospital is your hospital for life, delivering exceptional, compassionate care to families across the Metro East. From emergency services to specialized treatments, our dedicated team supports your health at every stage. Experience world-class care close to home. Discover the difference at andersonhospital.org.
Now, back to the Gashouse Gang on your home of the St. Louis Cardinals, KMOX.
Nate Gatter, Chris Rongey on the Gashouse Gang, 104.1 FM KMOX, brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling, SaligaHeatingandCooling.com. Also by Anderson Hospital. John Rooney will join us at 12:30. We'll talk about this Birds team that is now 6.5 games back from a wild card spot, or well back in the division. I think that a couple of other teams like the Brewers and Cubs have sort of pulled away from everybody else. And this is after, I should reiterate, I declared the Brewers dead 2 months ago. I said, this team is done. Now they got one of the best records in baseball. So don't listen to me ever. John Mozeliak, president of baseball operations, visited with Tom Ackerman, and this happened yesterday on Sports on a Sunday morning. And he was talking about the trade deadline and it being, that final deadline of his before Chaim Bloom eventually takes over. Thought he had some good comments about it.
You never say never, right? But it was a bit surreal in terms of like walking out of there, in terms of like, when you think about my career with the Cardinals, I mean, I don't envision myself having to make any real major decisions now between now and the time I step away. So, that was a lot going on that week. And then to walk out of that room thinking back that those are the kind of things that you miss because they're exciting. It's a lot going on. But there's also the part that, you're not going to miss, where people say you didn't do enough, you're boring, you're just a vanilla. And it's like, that's the side of the game where getting away from it is going to be kind of fun, where I just, don't have to hear that much anymore. And, I'm going to miss a lot about the game of baseball, but some of those things I'm not at all.
Well, you were certainly on one of the biggest stages in sports, president of baseball operations of the St. Louis Cardinals. You still are. There will be a transition. There has been a transition of power to Chaim Bloom. How does that work now moving forward here? It's not obviously an overnight handoff. This has been going on for a while.
Yeah, I mean, obviously in my role, I've been still in my role. I think when you think about like the word transition now, as the organization starts to focus on 2026, clearly employee contracts, employee hiring, if there's going to be any employees that aren't going to be a part of the organization, like that's really going to have to fall under Chaim and then the director level.
So that's John Mozeliak talking with Tom Ackerman yesterday here on KMOX. And this is, it's a new era of Cardinals baseball that we are entering. And you have to figure that Bloom's fingerprints are on a lot of this. I don't know how you don't allow him to have a ton of influence on what happened at the deadline leading up to it and now what happens going into the offseason because, well, I mean, if it's going to be his team, you need to give him as best of a head start as you possibly can, right? You have to give him what he needs. And I know that this has been a little difficult to pin down. And a lot of people have been trying to figure out, okay, how much influence does Bloom have? Of course, he's in the room. He's privy to everything. But the final call, is it his? Is it still John Mozeliak's, and has it been? And I think that these have been very important questions that Cardinals fans have had. Well, now we're into the new thing, right? I mean, we're essentially moving on to the new thing, and we want to know what it's going to look like. We want to know the approach he's going to take. So hopefully, and I don't have reason to think they haven't, but hopefully they've set him up well so that he can really hit the ground running on this, because it's going to be a rebuilding process, if you want to call it that takes a little time, because they are not going to be, I don't think, unless weird things happen, and weird things happen in baseball all the time. But I'm not going into 2026 thinking this is a favorite or even a second place favorite in the division. I mean, it could be a third or fourth place team next year, potentially. And then you got to worry about the possibility of a lockout in 2027. So before the Cardinals are truly a competitive within the division team, it could be some time. We could be talking about a couple of years here.
Doesn't help that the National League Central, which in recent memory was probably the worst division in baseball, or certainly one of the two worst, is now dramatically better, especially in terms of depth, right? Because the Cubs are a very, very good team. The Brewers have exceeded expectations considerably this year. And the Cincinnati Reds, who just keep accumulating young talent, although they do some weird things sometimes, like they did at the deadline, they do have a really talented young core, and they're not going to be easy to deal with. And, even then, the Pirates...
And we should point out the Cardinals are 2.5 games behind the Reds right now.
Right.
So the Cardinals are a fourth-place team at this moment.
And the Pirates are tougher than they have been in recent years, if only because you might have a 3-game series and you see Skeens and Keller in 2 of those 3. And the Cardinals have had success against Paul Skeens, obviously, but that's not the kind of thing you can rely on to because they really haven't. They've won games against Paul Skeens, but they haven't hit him hard. They've just victimized the Pirates' bats, as a lot of teams do. And anyway, that's beside the point. But the division is going to be tough for the foreseeable future, which I think will make the Cardinals' build maybe seem even slower, because they've taken advantage at times in recent memory of the National League Central not being so great. This is a much deeper division than it has been previously.
Just a perspective, this thing right now, and this is a tough pill to swallow, but the Cardinals are closer to the Pirates than they are the Cubs.
Oh, for sure.
Right. In terms of position, they are 10 games behind the Cubs. They're only 7.5 in front of Pittsburgh. So, and Pittsburgh is a bad baseball team.
Organizationally, I'm not sure they're closer. I don't know if I want to. I don't think they're that much closer to the Reds than they are to the Pirates from an organizational standpoint, in terms of like what the reasons to be optimistic in the next 2 years or so. And again, that could change a lot in the offseason. But that could change a lot in the offseason. But just how muddled up the roster is, how dysfunctional the major league roster and the first couple of names off the major league roster are. It just doesn't make sense. It's like it was built in a vacuum, like you had 10 different general managers all just trying to acquire players they thought were good and having no idea who the other 9 GMs were acquiring. And then they ended up with a bunch of guys who do the same things.
I will agree with you on a what's in-house in terms of talent standpoint. I think you're right on that. Where I have a little bit of optimism is knowing they've got a long way to go. I think I have some optimism with the direction they're going.
I agree
with who's going to be in charge. Not that Mozeliak. I really don't think that all of this is on John Mozeliak. I think whatever your issues with the Cardinals have been, some of it is above that. I mean, you have to think about the resources that the president of baseball operations has to make the moves he wants to. I'm not saying he did everything right with the resources he was given, because I think it's far from that. But I have confidence in Bloom. He's well respected. A lot of people around the game like him. And the fact they have decided to really start to fix what's been going on at the minor league level and address those things. Those are directions I think are hugely important to them becoming closer to what they were 10 years ago than what they have been for the last couple. So I think I have confidence in the people who are going to be in charge of this thing. But it's the roster that needs a whole lot of cleaning. And I'm talking top to bottom foundationally too.
I agree.
Nate Gatter, Chris Rongey. When we come back, John Rooney, voice of the Cardinals, joins the show. It's the Gashouse Gang, and he is coming up next.
At 5, when others are running out of steam, the Redbird Rush Hour hits the gas. Kevin Wheeler, Matt Pauley, and Bernie Miklasz bring sharp analysis, fresh insight, and no recycled takes. Real baseball talk for fans who know the game. Redbird Rush Hour, weekdays at 5 on 104.1 FM KMOX, the voice of St. Louis, the unrivaled voice of baseball.
Hello, St. Louis. This is Joe Hart, one of the 6 certified arborists with Timberline Professional Tree Care. It's summer in St. Louis, and the extreme heat and prolonged dry conditions can lead to big problems with your trees. Trees depend on soil moisture to remain healthy, and drought stress over time can weaken a tree's natural defenses against insects and fatal disease. Promoting general health of your trees with a wide area of mulch over the root system, periodic deep watering, and growth regulator treatment is a great way to ensure your trees stay healthy for years to come. It's also time of the year to resume maintenance pruning on oak trees. At Timberline, we have the knowledge, experience, and equipment to handle any of your tree care needs, including prevention of fatal diseases, pruning, removal, and lightning protection. Read our online reviews. They're all 5-star, and we will not rest until you are satisfied. Call Timberline Professional Tree Care today at 636-479-7475 or visit our website at stltreecare.com.
Hey guys, Glover here with my friends at Michael's Baths. Your bathroom might be small, but fixing it can feel huge. Cracked tiles, outdated fixtures, and that tub that's seen better days. Well, at Michael's Baths, we're going to get you the bathroom of your dreams at a price that you can afford. Mike usually comes in 30 to 50% less than the national companies. He is local. He is family-owned and operated. He's done this for 30 years, and he is a great guy. 636-775-0800. 636-775-0800 to michaelsbaths.com.
82 degrees in St. Louis. The AccuWeather Real Feel at 96. Could be a thunderstorm coming up this afternoon into the evening. Low of 66. And the weather is brought to you by Terrace Senior Living of Eureka.
Check out the Terrace in Eureka for affordable senior living with 24-hour nursing supervision, delicious meals, medication management, and activities. The Terrace is affordable and will work with your Medicaid plan. Go to rspseniorliving.com and look for the Terrace Private Assisted Living.
You have 3 ex-wives and your current trophy wife wants a life insurance policy 3 times the size of the policies you had to purchase for your previous mistakes? If so, you need to call Big Lou at Term Provider, 800-700-6898. Big Lou is intimately familiar with your problems, and if you're 50 or 60 years old and in reasonably good health, a $1 million policy should only cost about $100 to $200 per month. Big Lou may have a solution for your previous policies as well. You may even save enough money to lighten the load on your new $1 million policy. Remember, call Big Lou. He's like you, except he's only on number 2. Call Term Provider at 800-700-6898. That's 800-700-6898 for $1 million in term life insurance that you can live with. Call Big Lou at 800-700-6898. 800-700-6898.
Now the John Rooney Conversation on KMOX. Sponsored by Missouri Farm Bureau Insurance. We are Missouri Farm Bureau Insurance. And if you're a Missourian, we're for you.
It is Monday, and it is after 12:30 on the Gashouse Gang, which means we talk to our guy, radio voice of the Cardinals, John Rooney, who is visiting with us today from sunny Los Angeles. How's it going, John?
Oh, it's not after 12:30 here.
Oh, well, we don't care that it's 10:30 there, John. We just
I do.
We can. Well, you have to. You need to show up to the ballpark on time. You can't be showing up 2 hours late.
Well, we got the late show tonight back in the Central Time Zone, but the first of 3 against the Dodgers, and yesterday an interesting game. I mean, an absolute nothing game for the Cardinals until the 9th inning, when they put on a great approach to 2 all-star pitchers and made a game of it. That ball that Mason Wynn hit that was caught by Suarez, that gets by him, who knows what happens. But I like the at-bats in the 9th inning, and shows that this team still has a lot of fight.
Yeah, you guys mentioned this on the broadcast that that's one of those games where they do put up a fight late and you lament that one bad inning they had in the seventh. You're talking about that 4-run inning. If that doesn't happen, the ninth looks a whole lot different for the Cardinals. But then again, the the Padres are not approaching that the same way that they would have if it was like a 3-run game instead.
Well, here's the whole thing. You don't want to use your closer in a game that's 7-0 going to the ninth inning.
Then they had to.
And the Cardinals made them do that.
Yeah.
So that puts some more wear and tear on their closer. Mike Schilt has used that bullpen a lot, and I'm not sure it can hold up. He has 2 months to go yet. And they're great arms, and they all throw. It seems like they all throw 96 to 100, and they're very effective right now. But their starting pitching has to take a little of that pressure off, or I don't see the Padres being able to really put up a formidable challenge. And I think the Giants are going to have something to say about that division, too. I don't think they're going to win it, but I think they'll have something to say about it with the games that are to be played yet with San Diego and Los Angeles. And the Dodgers are starting to get some of their pitchers back. They've been talking about this since April, that if they can get to July or August and get their injured pitchers back, and Tyler Glasnow goes tonight, he's 1-1, and he looked great in the season opener last season against the Cardinals. They get him going. That's going to be a step in the right direction to curing their ills, and Ohtani seems to be building up his arm strength, and the Dodgers are going to be tough to deal with. But I think the Padres are going to have some issues with all the wear and tear on the bullpen to this point, and the Cardinals added to that by going up against Morejon, an all-star who didn't get an out, and then Suarez was able to earn a save. But with a team like San Diego, you shouldn't have a save in a game at 7-0 going to the ninth.
John, obviously the series hasn't started yet in LA, but at the same time, like you're talking about, the Dodgers feel like they're kind of getting their mojo back a little bit after dealing with all those injuries and the rough skid that they had earlier, or I guess last month now. How do you feel the rest of baseball, the rest of the National League is kind of looking at the Dodgers right now, considering it hasn't been their typical sprint to 110 wins kind of season, but at the same time, the star power is still very much part of that roster and now is getting healthier?
Well, you said it, the star power. That's what everybody looks at with the Los Angeles Dodgers. They can put up so many all-stars up and down the lineup. And, of course, with Muncy's injury, that's a little bit different. But they have Will Smith, who's having a terrific season, a good catcher. And they have just a good build of their roster. And right now, they're the Dodgers. They're the team that people are looking at. But hardly anybody's talking about the Milwaukee Brewers and what they've been doing. They've been winning games they're supposed to win. They took care of the Nationals, and they have the Nationals, the Pirates, and some other clubs that are subpar coming up on their schedule. But they're taking care of business, and they're making a statement in the National League out of the Central. Central Division is a pretty good division, much better than many anticipated going in, as the Reds are a better team. The Cardinals have played better than anybody expected up to this point to be a game under 500. I don't think anybody expected that going into August when we left spring training. And hopefully they can get things compete on a competitive edge out of the bullpen with these young pitchers. And I like the approach. Graceffo had a tough time of it, and the ball that was hit yesterday by Jackson Merrill, it just got past the first baseman Burleson down the right field line. And that, to me, shows the razor-thin edge there is between a win and a loss for the Cardinals right now, where the others are finding some openings. And when the Cardinals hit the ball hard, like Mason Wynn did, goes right back to the pitcher. That's just the way it's going right now. But yesterday, San Diego got a great effort out of Merrill, who has driven in like 17 runs in his last 18 games. So he's beginning to heat up after he had a slow start to his season and a slow first half of the season. But since game 82, he's been playing a lot better, and that team has some star power of its own. And that's what we're trying to develop in St. Louis. And we're seeing that on the rise with a Mason Wynn, who is really showing off his skills here over the last month and a half. I mean, the play he made on a rise, going into short left field and throwing him out on a one-hop throw, Rise couldn't believe it by the time he got to first base. Couldn't believe that he was out. And Mason Wynn is on the rise, and just need to get Victor Scott II with a little more confidence, hitting some more ground balls and line drives. I think he has the ability to be a star as well.
So we know that you mentioned the Central Division and what the Brewers have been doing and the Cubs have been doing. I don't know that I certainly know that I would not have expected on August 4th for the Brewers to have the best record in baseball, to have the best run differential in baseball. I know their pitching has been really good. Would you have ever guessed this to be the thing that's happening now on, with 2 months left to go, that the Brewers are not just good and leading the division, but right now they have played better than everybody else?
Well, where did Mizorowski come from? That's the other side of it too. You put him in the rotation with what they've been able to do. And McGill has done a nice job at the end of their bullpen. And they got rid of a lot of pieces. I mean, Willie Adames was kind of like a heart and soul guy to their lineup, but he's not there, and they're still winning. And they don't have Williams in their bullpen, who was a National League Pitcher of the Year when he first came into Major League Baseball out of the St. Louis area. But what they're doing right now, they run when they get on base, and that's the other thing. They get on base and put pressure on people, and they play really good defense, and that's why they are where they are. And it's going to be tough on the rest of the division to chase them if they keep playing like that, and they get Mizorowski back. They feel like that shin injury to Mizorowski was a good point of the season and his development, because he's only a third of an inning off of his high in innings pitched so far at the professional level. So they're giving him a break of a couple of starts by being on the injured list. But when he comes back, there's just more firepower that opponents will have to deal with Milwaukee. And you want to get to them early because their bullpen has been pretty effective.
So, John, I know that this is a post-trade deadline. It's different, and players are obviously aware of what the Cardinals did. They know who's not in that clubhouse any longer. And I think they know what the connotation of making trades is, whether good or bad, whether the front office believes you're a contender or not. So, just to get in the psyche of a player, how are you approaching, or how are they approaching the last couple of months of this season, when you want to go out and win every day, of course, but also that the front office has said, we don't think this team's going to win the division or make the playoffs. So what is the mindset of a player at this point with 2 months left?
Well, and there's really no change to the lineup. That didn't change because they didn't trade anybody from the lineup, and they got Nootbaar back, and he's trying to get his timing down after being on the injured list. And Herrera is starting to hit the ball hard again. So I think they really believe that they can compete. They had a hard time of it with 8 innings yesterday and 16 strikeouts. But the 9th inning, they were able to zero in on 2 really good all-star pitchers. And that's something to build on going into this series. And they were able to come back from a 4-0 deficit to win the game Saturday night. So they're not out there saying, oh, they just sold us down the river and we can't win and we can't play. That's not the approach at all. It is a different setup in the bullpen. And Gordon Graceffo went through a tough one yesterday, giving up 4 runs. It proved to be the difference in the game. But he has to learn from that. And being in that environment with that 44,000-plus crowd and being in the atmosphere there and the good weather, I think that will bode well for Gordon Graceffo and some of the younger pitchers and the younger players. But they're not out there saying, oh, we can't win, and they just shrug their shoulders. They're preparing to win every day they go into the clubhouse and go on the field. And I don't think that has changed from day one in spring training.
Is there a player that maybe more than the others you are wanting to get a look at for the remainder of the season? One that you're really going to be paying close attention to, knowing they've got quite a few young players that are trying to get as much playing time as possible.
Well, they're giving Nolan Gorman a terrific opportunity, but he hasn't played well at third base at all. He needs to get his feet under him and settle in. We've seen him play a lot better at third base and make better throws than what he did. A small sample size of that weekend series, but they were challenging him and bunting a little bit yesterday. I thought they bunt more than they did, but I'd like to see him get his feet under him and have a strong finish and take advantage of the opportunity he has to get more at-bats and playing time with Nolan Arenado on the injured list. That's one that I'd be interested in. And I'd love to see Weatherholt come up at some point towards the end of the year. That guy has hit the ball everywhere he's been, right out of college, right on up through the ranks, all the way to AAA. with the Cardinals. But we'll see what the front office has in mind for him, whether it's late this year or we see him next year. He's a guy I think you're going to be hearing a lot about, because the managers that I've talked to at the minor league level for the Cardinals and the people who've seen Weatherholt play, they say he is the real deal. He's a baseball player.
Yeah, I suspect you're right, and that we will ultimately see him before the season is over. And I think that's going to be one of those things that that sort of ignites Cardinals fans a little bit, because the way the season has gone, it's been disappointing. But to get a look at a guy like that at the big league level, I'm sure people are looking forward to that possibility this year. So, John Rooney, you've got a ball game tonight, and Central Time, it's a 9:10 first pitch. That means 7:10 where you are. Yes, 8:15 pregame. That's 6:15 California time.
Okay, I have that down.
Okay, just want to make sure.
I'm ready.
Don't be late.
I'm ready. Haven't been late for one over, close to 40 years. So we'll see.
John Rooney will be listening tonight, my friend.
All right, guys. Have a good one.
That is John Rooney, the voice of the Cardinals, visiting with us here on KMOX. That's right, 8:15 pregame, 9:10 first pitch. And Matt Pauley has all kinds of Cardinals programming for you starting at 5 o'clock with the Redbird Rush Hour. He's with Wheeler. And then, of course, it will be Sports Open Line from 6 until the pregame show, which is at 8:15. So it's all Cardinals talk. It's a whole evening of it. You ready for that? You better be.
I'm always ready.
Well, I know you are.
I thought you were talking to me.
No,
that was rhetorical.
Yeah, I'm talking to the people listening.
Yeah.
Listening or watching on YouTube, Facebook, or Twitter.
It shows you how inviting and conversational your tone was, that I, here in the room, assumed you must be speaking to me, the only person in the world.
Yeah, that's what I'm. You know what? In my world, you are the only person.
Yeah, the apple of your eye.
Nate Gatter, Chris Rongey on KMOX.
We are Missouri Farm Bureau Insurance, and we're here for all of life's wins. Like when you get a new car, or new boat, or new driver, or when your son moves out, but your mom moves in, or you find out you're expecting again, or when one rental property turns into 2, then 20, or you realize they're all in Tornado Alley. Life is full of life events, so call your Missouri Farm Bureau Insurance agent or visit mofbinsurance.com to find an agent near you, and we'll make sure you have the right coverage for each of life's wins.
We are Missouri Farm Bureau Insurance, and we're for the people of Missouri, in good times and in bad. We're for Missouri families and Missouri communities. We're for giving back to those communities and lifting people up. And when Missouri weather rips through our state, we're for helping put back the pieces. We're for brighter days and new tomorrows. We are Missouri Farm Bureau Insurance. And if you live in Missouri, we're for you.
Paid non-attorney spokesperson. Paid for by Action Matters. Texting privacy policy and terms and conditions posted at textingterms.us. Texting enrolls you for recurring automated text marketing messages. Message and data rates may apply. Reply stop to opt out.
Attention parents of children who have used the gaming platform known as Roblox. If your child was a victim of sexual abuse or harm of any kind while using the Roblox platform, you may be entitled to compensation. Roblox is facing multiple high-profile lawsuits, including an ongoing class action, alleging it failed to protect users from foreseeable dangers that led to the grooming, exploitation, and sexual abuse of minors on the platform. Claims allege Roblox turned a blind eye to predators, unsafe games, and deceptive monetization practices that targeted children. Victims were contacted through in-game chats and coerced into private conversations on third-party apps. If you believe your child may have been a victim of grooming, sexual abuse, or harm of any kind while using the Roblox platform, you may be entitled to a cash settlement. Text our helpline now to find out if you have a viable compensation claim against Roblox. Text GONE to 32 32 32. That's GONE to 32 32 32. GONE to 32 32 32.
The KMOX City SC Soccer Showcase, presented by Michelob Ultra. It's the Hot Shot Sports Bar and Grill on Lindbergh, Thursday, August 7th. A limited number of fans can get an autograph or a picture with City SC defensive midfielder Jake Gerwood-Reich. Register to win great prizes, enjoy great food and a cold drink. Hot Shots on Lindbergh, the place to be, Thursday, August 7th from 6 till 8 p.m. for the City SC Soccer Showcase, presented by Michelob Ultra. For more info, KMOX.com/events. If you owe the IRS, you have a legal issue, and you need the Lance Drury Law Firm. We'll protect your rights. Log on at lancedrurylaw.com.
Chris Rongey for Siteman Cancer Center, and you have to know that you are somebody's favorite person. And your health matters not just to you, but it matters to people who care about you. Getting screened early for any cancer, whether it's colon or breast cancer, prostate cancer, or lung cancer, it is important to do that. Siteman has set up a website called getscreenednow.com. And when you go to it, it's going to help you find a location nearer you. If you live a little farther out from St. Louis and don't want to make the trip into the city, you can get screened closer to home. Getscreenednow.com, because for me, I'm over 45. It's time for that colonoscopy. Third leading cause of cancer-related deaths in both men and women. And getscreenednow.com will help you find a location that is good for you. Doing it early, really, really important. Getscreenednow.com.
This report is sponsored by Overhead Door Company of St. Louis.
I'm Ed Evans, CEO of Consumer Cellular. We're dedicated to serving people 50 and up like me. Our needs are different. Big Wireless wants us in an unlimited plan, but if you're not using all that data, you're probably getting used. At Consumer Cellular, we're focused on affordable, reliable plans, including data that suits your needs, not ours. Our plans start at just $20, and you'll get the best customer service in the business.
Call 1-888-FREEDOM, visit consumercellular.com/facts or a store near you. Plans include $5 credit for auto pay and e-billing. See site for additional facts.
Summer is here, and it's time to plan your style staycation with Bob's Discount Furniture, where you can find everyday low prices on the hottest styles. The comfiest Consumer Reports recommended mattresses, fast, friendly delivery, and flexible financing to fit your budget. Go to mybobs.com for details. So stock up and score everyday low prices, delivered on time all summer long at your nearest store or at mybobs.com.
Oh, my Bob! Bob's Discount Furniture.
Hey, this is Charlie Brennan. Have you noticed loose bricks or missing mortar around your house, on the walls, the patios, the walkways, the porch, or the chimneys? If so, you need to call Morelli Tuck Pointing. 314-645-1387. You might need one of two things: solid tuck pointing, the removal of old mortar with the replacement of new mortar throughout an entire wall or chimney, or maybe just spot tuck pointing. Spot tuck pointing involves the tuck pointing of a particular wall, a chimney, or other masonry surface in an area where it's needed the most. One example might be settlement cracks, usually found above or below windows or doorways. 314-645-1387. Call the company that the Brennans have called when we've needed tuck pointing. Morelli Tuck Pointing, the masonry specialists. Winner of the Angie's List Super Service Award every year since 2005. 314-645-1387, MorelliTuckPointing.com.
Now back to the Gas House Gang, sponsored by Saliga Heating and Cooling and by Anderson Hospital on 104.1 FM KMOX.
The Gas House Gang brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling, SaligaHeatingandCooling.com, also by Anderson Hospital. It is Nate Gatter in for Ackerman and Chris Rongey today with you just for a few more minutes before the Dave Glover show takes over. And we talked a lot of baseball today, but the college football season is coming up here, Nate. And, you call college football games for Westwood One. You're the number one guy, aren't you?
I am.
You're the number one guy.
I mean, it's really pretty much one of one. I mean, we do one game a week. So
it's just
but
you
there are. I mean, I am technically the lead guy.
Just say, yeah, I'm the number one guy.
Yeah, I am the number one guy.
Don't qualify it.
Yeah, sorry.
Run with it, bro.
Yeah.
So we've got our local teams, Mizzou and Illinois. Both Illinois is ranked 12 in the coaches poll that just came out.
Yeah, the preseason coaches poll just came out today. And Illinois, number 12. I think expectations, excitement around their program is probably the highest it's been in, I don't know, probably since the Juice Williams era for sure. So that's almost 20 years now. Mm-hmm. And they're going to have Ohio State coming to them. We'll have that game. I'm really excited because I think that's probably, it's fun to go to the biggest stadiums. You know, I've done games at Alabama and at Texas and at Georgia and at Florida, at Ohio State and Michigan. And it's great. There's something a little bit different about when you walk into more of that mid-sized stadium, not acting like Illinois is, some kind of small program,
right?
But it's not an Ohio State, a Michigan, a Penn State, an Oregon. And when you walk into that stadium for what is, instead of being a big game, one of the biggest games or two of this season for a program that has huge games every single year or almost every single year, if Illinois is unbeaten on October 11th when they bring Ohio State to Champaign. That's going to be one of the biggest regular season games in the history of the program.
Right.
And that just has a different feel to it because there's an edge. And first of all, there's a gratitude. People are very excited about it and just grateful that their team is that good because they don't get that all the time the way Ohio State fans generally do. Secondly, there's a little bit of an edge and a hunger and almost an air of desperation because they also understand how fleeting those opportunities are, right? This might be Illinois' only opportunity for a while to make the college football playoff.
And that'll be a fun day, too, because Mizzou's got Alabama that same day.
Yeah, I don't think that'll be as fun for Mizzou as...
No, it won't. But still, Alabama comes to town. That's always fun for them.
Yeah, and Missouri is only a couple spots out of the top 25. I think they're 27th if you two down in the receiving votes category. Mizzou has just the big question mark at quarterback. Don't know if it's going to be Sam Horn or Bo Pribula. Probably Bo Pribula because you don't pay a guy $1.5 million out of the portal to sit on the bench. But Sam Horn has a lot of arm talent, and even though he signed with the Dodgers, who took him in the Major League Draft a few weeks ago, he specifically carved out his ability to play for Mizzou football for one more year. They do have the freshman Matt Zollers, who's really talented, but I think he's on the outside looking in of the QB competition for the time being. If Mizzou did not have the big question mark, if it was settled that Pribula is starting and people felt like they had a slightly better handle on what does Bo Pribula look like as the unquestioned starter for a program of this caliber, I think the roster is easily talented enough to justify them being a top 20 team as well. But when you have a question mark at the most important position in football, it's going to drop you, at least 10 spots right there.
End of this month, that's when the college football season starts for both the Fighting Illini and for Mizzou and everybody else. So week 0 is approaching. And then a week after that, football, baby. Real football, NFL.
Yeah, it comes fast in
football.
3 weeks from week 0. Kansas will be playing week 0, and then it's the next week all college teams, and the week after that NFL.
You know how mad everybody is? I called the NFL real football and not college football.
All football is real football in its own way. It's just a little bit different.
Okay, everybody's mad.
We're doing real radio, even though we're not syndicated, Raj.
Nate Gatter, love talking to you, man. Enjoy your honeymoon.
I will enjoy it. I intend to.
All right, go get them.
Thanks, man.
Have a good time. Be safe out there. Don't get pickpocketed. Hey, pickpocket!
Yeah, you got any tips?
Pickpocket.
You're worldly, man.
I don't know. Keep your hands on your pockets.
Just scream pickpocket all the time so everyone around you just moves away.
That's exactly right. And if you kick over the change cup on accident, don't pick it up. Say, sorry. We keep walking. All right, that's Nate Gatter. I'm Chris Rongey. Gashouse Gang back with you tomorrow at 12 o'clock on 104.1 FM KMOX. Here comes Dave Glover.
I'm Ed Evans, CEO of Consumer Cellular. We're dedicated to serving people 50 and up like me. Our needs are different.